So please remember that you don't need to keep looking at the screen if you don't want to. In yoga, we quite often move and rest and do what we do with our eyes closed because it's all about the inner journey. But for some people, they're not comfortable closing their eyes. So you do what feels right for you. And then the other thing is only do what feels comfortable for you. So I think in a minute, I don't think, I know in a minute, I'm going to introduce some chanting. Now, I know a lot of you really love chanting, but others are not so keen. So please just do what feels right. So again, we are focusing this morning on Anahata chakra, the heart chakra. So we're going to start, I'm just going to invite you to close your eyes and just bring your hand to your heart and drop your awareness down, if you can, into the heart. And while you do this, I'm going to read out something from the Upanishads, which is one of the sacred texts from the Vedas. And a lot of these we refer to in yoga. So this is from the Chandogya Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad. There is a spirit that is mind and life, light and truth, and vast spaces. It contains all works and desires, and all perfumes, and all senses. It unfolds the whole universe, and in silence is loving to all. This is the spirit that is in my heart, smaller than a grain of rice, or a grain of mustard seed, or a grain of canary seeds, or the kernel of a grain of canary seed. This is the spirit that is in my heart, greater than the earth, greater than the sky, greater than heaven itself, greater than all these works. It contains all works and desires, and all perfumes and all tastes. It enfolds the whole universe, and in silence is loving to all. This is the spirit that is in my heart. So when we look at either yogic philosophy or we use the chakras as a model to take us there, we always say that truth, light, spirit is in the heart. And I mentioned before that Anahata chakra is the gateway between the more earthbound chakras to our higher ones. And I think we live in a society which is very heady, very analytical, and we want to become, as we can, more intuitive, more feeling, because this is where authenticity and truth are. And I use the word authenticity, I use it quite a lot, but I think it's overused now because quite often you hear the word authentic being used inauthentically. It's become a bit of one of those trendy words. But by authentic, we do mean the heart. We mean this kind of knowing of truth, which always resides here. And we're going to do a little bit of chanting now because chanting and sound are said to open the heart. And part of what we do in yoga is about opening the heart. So we're going to start with a mudra. So I'd like you to take your hands together at the heart and then soften the palms to make a hollow. This is called Anjali Mudra. And I'm going to explain what we're going to do. And for this, you might want to look at the screen. So we're going to inhale. And as we exhale, we're going to open the palms out and we're going to chant Om. And then we close them again into Anjali Mudra. We breathe in and then we chant again Om. Now, before we do that, actually, just drop your hands down because I just want to give you a bit of explanation around what we're doing. So when we talk about the heart, we want to talk about giving, but also receiving. So as we open our palms, this represents giving, but also receiving. It's both. And I just want to add to this that I know that those who have fatigue issues, people who have long COVID, ME, autoimmune conditions, I include myself because this has been me in the past too, we often are great givers, but we have difficulty in receiving. So as you do this, you might like to just think, do I struggle with receiving? What is it I need to receive? So you can make that part of your practice as we do this. And the seed mantra for the heart chakra is yum. We'll chant that too in a minute. But we're going to start with Om, with the Om breath, because Om is this sacred sound which is said to reside in the heart. It represents the heart also. And most scripture from all religions and non-religions talks about sounds being the main component, if you like, of the universe. What the universe, what love is, it comes from sound, vibration. You could call it vibration or signal as well. So let's try that together. So bring the hands to Anjali Mudra at the heart, breathe in, and then as you breathe out, chant in your own breathing rhythm, in your own pitch. Breathe in, bring the palms together. Inhale to Anjali Mudra. Inhale and just pause and have a few moments meditation. You might like to leave your hands out folded. And again, just drop this reflective question into the silence. What is it I need to receive? What is it I need to receive? And then this time we're going to cross the arms over the heart. So one hand to the opposite shoulder, the other on top. So elbows are crossed on the, we're crossing over the heart. And we're going to chant Om Yum Yum Yum, which is the seed mantra for this chakra. So we'll do this as call and response. I'll chant it to you and you chant it to your heart. Om Yum Yum Yum. Om Yum Yum Yum. Om Yum Yum Yum. And then finally, we're going to bring the hands to the heart in the Namaste Mudra. Again, we're going to use the mantra Om. So again, you might like to just look at the screen for this, but my words would also guide you if you want to keep your eyes closed. So I'm going to breathe in and take my right arm out to the right, following the hand with my gaze. And then I chant that right hand back in. Om. So when you're ready, we'll do this together. Breathe in, right arm out to the right, following the hand with your gaze, chanting it back. Om. Your own breathing rhythm, your own pitch. Breathe in, out to the left. Om. Out to the right, inhale. Om. Final final time to the left. Breathe in. Om. And now with your eyes closed, drop your hands to your lap and just sit quietly for a moment or two, exploring and sinking into the silence. Just allowing the mind to begin to find quiet and peace. And then when you're ready, we're going to do our breathwork practice, which is so important. So just start by finding the breath and just seeing how you're breathing. But do this without judgment. So just following the natural in-breath, the natural out-breath. And then take a moment or two to think about your posture. So just think about the back of the neck being long, space between the crown of the head and the tailbone, and the shoulders falling away from the ears. And if you like, just to relax this upper body, you can roll your shoulders a few times. And then soften the jaw. And if you wish to, you might like to take your index fingers and just massage around the jaw, often called the tightest joint in the body. We hold a lot of tension here without being aware of it. And then we're going to take one hand again to the heart, the other just below the belly button. And we're going to breathe into the hand that's below the navel. So the navel slightly lifts as we breathe in and then drops as we breathe out. And the hand on the chest is pacifying the chest area. And then drop your hands down and just check if you're breathing through the nose. So when we breathe through the nose, it helps nitric oxide, that's from the science, but it also warms the air and it helps to filter out any impurities. It helps us to get the correct exchange of oxygen and CO2 into our system. And then just for a moment or two, I'd like you to focus only on your out breath. So this is referred to as the energy of apana, or the letting go, or the making space breath. So if you can, focus on the exhalation being long and smooth. So inhale is free. Exhale, if possible, is long and smooth. And if it can't be long and smooth, that's fine too. Don't bring any judgment to bear. Just working with compassion for self. And always remember, we can't share compassion for others unless we find it for ourselves first. And then before we come down to lying, just like again to offer another reflective question. And the question is, what does self-compassion mean to me? What does self-compassion mean to me? Now, I'm dropping this as a reflective question. It doesn't need an answer. But again, within our community, I know many of us struggle with this because we don't think we count, or we think it's selfish to be self-compassionate, or we put other people first, or we're not in our bodies. So being embodied is really important. because once we are embodied, we can begin to feel what we need. So just take a moment or two to come into the body and just explore right now how your body's feeling. And even if it's tired or there's pain, bring this sense of tenderness and compassion to however you are. And then observe how the mind is. And how the emotions are. And if you're able to, this is quite subtle, but just observe how any emotions or thoughts are impacting the physical body. So it might be something just like a little bit of stress, making the shoulders tense up and rise up to the ears, or the jaw tighten again. So just let everything soften now. Think of releasing on that out breath. And then when you're ready, please, if you would like, come down to a comfortable lying position. So make sure you're warm. I always suggest when you lie that you might like to start with the knees bent, because this just helps the back to relax. We can stretch out the legs later. And if the knees are bent, have the heels coming into the buttocks and the knees just touching each other. You might like to look up at the belly button to check you're straight. And then you can either rest the hands on the belly or have them beside the body with the palms turned up. And then again, bring your awareness into this out breath and feel on every exhalation you are letting go into your support. So feel your support hold you safely, feel you're being held, but also feel you're allowing yourself to let go on every exhalation. And then very gently and slowly, just roll the head from side to side to release the neck as slowly as you can. Because when we move slowly, it gives the body the signal that we are safe. Sharp, fast movements do the opposite. And then centering the head, just from the floor, or whatever you're lying on, just gently draw the shoulders together and release. And this is just very gently opening up the heart, because although I'm talking a lot about Anahata chakra in an energetic sense, it also applies to us physically, particularly our cardiovascular system, our breathing, our heart. And very often when we've been ill, we sink over our heart and we just want to remind it to open. And then I'm going to read you out something more from the Upanishad, the same Upanishad. So if you just like to listen. And before I do read it out, I'd just like to say that it refers to Brahman. Brahman is a Vedic concept for the total of everything. So some might translate that as God, some might translate that as universal life force, the sum of everything that is, however that works for you. In the center of Brahman, our own body, there is a small shrine in the form of a lotus flower, and within can be found a small space. We should find who dwells there, and we should want to know what dwells there. And if anyone asks, What is it who dwells in a small shrine in the form of a lotus flower in the center of the castle of Brahman? Who should we want to find and to know? We can answer, the little space within the heart is as great as this vast universe. The heavens and earth are there, and the sun and the moon and the stars, fire and lightning and winds are there, and all that now is, and all that is not, for the whole universe is in him, and he dwells within the heart. So it's this idea that the light is in our heart, that we drop out of the head, we connect more with our heart. And for some, this can be the idea of the Christ consciousness or the Buddha being, Krishna consciousness, whatever it means to you, it's about light, light in the heart. So now when you're ready, if you like, take your hand, one hand on the heart, the other on top. We're going to do a little bit more chanting to the heart. And I'd like you to think of this like a lullaby. So we're going to chant Om Yam Yam Yam. So I'm going to, rather than do this as call and response, I'm going to let you do this if you would like 3 times to your heart like a lullaby. And when you finish chanting, just see if you can find that space of stillness, a space between the thoughts, or drop into the silence after your out breath. Because stillness and silence are the way to the heart. And again, I'm going to ask, because this is really the theme of this class today, what do I need to receive? And what does self-compassion mean to me? What do I need to receive? And what would self-compassion look like to me? And then when you're ready, we're going to get ready for our yoga nidra practice.